Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Madar Gravelazian, coming up in today's newscast. As Israel expands its operations in Gaza, U.S. President Donald Trump says he hopes to end the war as quickly as possible. U.S. Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem is in Israel to attend the memorial for the 2 Israeli embassy staff murdered in Washington. And today is Jerusalem Day. Hear all about the significance of this important day celebrating Israel's eternal capital. As Israel announced its expansion of operations in Gaza against Hamas, U.S. President Donald Trump said he is seeking an end to the war in Gaza as quickly as possible. He made these comments to reporters on Sunday just before boarding Air Force One in New Jersey on his way back to Washington. And today, a report in Sky News Arabia citing unnamed sources said Trump is likely to announce a ceasefire in Gaza in the coming days. The ceasefire would also include the release of all the Israeli hostages in Gaza, as per the report. But despite the anonymous sources and bold statements of a potential end to the Gaza war, the reality on the ground looks much different. Joining us now from the Gaza border is ILTV's Shosh Bedrosian. Shosh, just today we saw missiles launched from Gaza into Israel. There is all this rhetoric about ending the war. But what are Israelis in the south dealing with? What are they feeling now 18 months into this war?
Lidar, I'm about 5 kilometers from the border of Gaza, and like you said, the IDF confirmed that 3 rockets were launched from southern Gaza today. The IDF says that 2 of them actually landed in the Gaza Strip, and 1 of them was intercepted before crossing into Israeli territory. All of this, of course, as so many residents here in the Gaza envelope have already started to move back home. A new report released by the Israeli government indicates 92% of the 64,000 residents displaced after the October 7th attack nearly 600 days ago have returned back to their homes in the Gaza envelope. Several of the communities have completed renovations and rebuilding efforts after kibbutzim were burned and destroyed by Hamas terrorists on October 7th. More than 100 homes were reconstructed so far, with more to be completed with the months to come. Meanwhile, the report highlights 5,000 residents who were displaced continue to live in temporary housing. All of this as plumes of smoke and frequent airstrikes can be heard from the Gaza Strip as the IDF continues to expand ground operations with hopes of capturing 75% of the Gaza Strip within the next 2 months. Lidar, many people who live on the border of Gaza still remain very affected by the hostage crisis that's still happening inside of the Gaza Strip. Remember, several of those people still being held were kidnapped from the kibbutzim here. So many people here believe that in order to bring this war to any type of closure, all remaining 58 hostages must come home. That includes the bodies of hostages as well. Right now, the Israeli government believes about 20 of them are still alive. Lidar?
Thank you, Shosh, for the report. And it's day 598 of the war in Gaza. The IDF's Operation Gideon's Sword continues to move forward, conquering additional territory in northern Gaza. The army now says that it aims to capture 75% of Gaza during a 2-month-long offensive. The announcement comes as a major Israel-backed Gaza aid program is set to begin operations. More on this from ILTV's Steve Leibovitz.
The IDF says that the plan is to hold most of Gaza while guiding the Palestinian population into small zones where civilians will receive humanitarian assistance. Israel has declared humanitarian zones in the Mawasi area on Gaza's southern coast, as well as in Deir el-Balach and Nuseirat, and in the center of Gaza City. Since the ceasefire ended on March 18th, Israel has resumed attacks on Hamas throughout Gaza, deploying 5 divisions, including tens of thousands of troops. The army is now said to be poised to launch a wide-scale ground offensive aimed at defeating Hamas. The army has also made clear that the offensive can be prevented if Hamas agrees to the hostage ceasefire agreement that U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff is still trying to achieve. The Air Force is continuing to target Hamas assets throughout Gaza. Hamas-run authorities claim that at least 20 people were killed and dozens wounded today at a school turned into a shelter. The alleged incident was in the Daraj neighborhood of Gaza City, and they claim that women and children were among the casualties. The army said the building was being used by the terrorists as a command center to plan and gather intelligence to carry out attacks on Israel. The IDF statement added that the army took many steps to mitigate civilian harm. The newly established Gaza Humanitarian Foundation said it will begin delivering humanitarian aid to Gaza today. At the same time, the group, which was set up in close cooperation with Israel, expressed regret over the resignation of its CEO even before distribution began. The aid group says it will not be deterred by the sudden leaving of Jake Wood, who is said to have been a passionate advocate for the need to safely deliver assistance to Gazans. GHF said its trucks are loaded and ready to go. Beginning today, they say that they will start delivering aid to reach over 1 million Gazans. There was no immediate confirmation from Kogat, the Israel Defense Ministry's arm, which coordinates the supply of aid into Gaza. The IDF will be tasked with providing security for the aid distribution.
And joining us now with the latest on the war in Gaza is Shili Feingossman, CEO of the Israel-Africa Relations Institute and former head of the regional affairs at the Israeli National Security Council. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you.
So Israel just began a 2-month-long operation in Gaza against Hamas, and as it's doing so, President Trump announced he wants to end the war as quickly as possible, even within a matter of days, according to some reports. So what's going on here? Are we finally seeing some daylight between Washington and Jerusalem when it comes to Gaza?
I don't think so, honestly. There are a couple of options here.
Having to do with
the first option that there is daylight, and I think if there is, it's very small. I mean, President Trump has been very clear for a long time now he wants to end the war. The matter is in what conditions, because he's also said that Hamas needs to release the hostages or all hell will break loose. And he said Hamas needs to stop from existing in the day after in Gaza. He said a few things, and I think what Israel is here trying to show is that it is willing and able to go all in conquering the Gaza Strip. And there are two options. Either that it's the intention, really wants to conquer all of us, or that's it's pressure on us to cave in and raise a flag. And the days come would actually prove which are from the option are the right one.
Now, Israel has stated very clearly that it has two main war goals, the elimination of Hamas and the return of the hostages. But, you know, Hamas is very much still prominent in Gaza. I mean, just today, the terror group fired rockets at Israel. We're 18 months into the war. Hamas still has these capabilities, and the world is now saying to Israel, time's up. So where do you see this going from here?
Well, I think the goal of the government is to keep Hamas out of power, out of being able to be a governing power and to be a force that will threaten substantially the citizens of Israel. So I don't think there's any expectation that no rocket will ever be fired from Hamas in the near future. I think the government understands that will take at least 3 years, but it will take generation to kind of feed ideologies that Hamas believes in and has radicalized its society, and that will take a long time. But to really hurt military capabilities should be the next year or two if Israel is really admiring to go all in on this there. And I think it has the support of Trump. Until now, we haven't seen, although there's been quite a military operation in the last 3 days, we haven't seen President Trump say stop. It hasn't been, oh, I'm going to stop the weapons shipment. I think you're doing the wrong thing, trying to get Hamas out of power. No, it's actually a support. Although it's kind of a silent support, still trying to get the hostage released and to get a ceasefire, which both the administration and Israel want, but depends on what terms and what conditions will that ceasefire come about.
Now, as you mentioned, Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that Israel will go back and occupy parts of Gaza. Israel, of course, withdrew from Gaza in 2005. Are we headed back for military rule in the Gaza Strip? And what kind of security risk does this pose to Israel, to the soldiers, as we move forward?
Well, that's a great question. I think the government of Israel should probably give an answer. It hasn't been indication. There's indication that there is a disagreement within the cabinet, the war cabinet of Israel, on which long-term strategy should be. There are voices think we should military rule and military civil and governance of Gaza, but I think the majority security cabinet is actually opposed to that opinion and is trying to come up with a creative solution.
All right, Shili Fine-Gosman, thank you so much for your analysis today.
Thank you for having me.
And moving on, U.S. President Donald Trump says that real progress was made in the latest round of nuclear talks with Iran this past weekend in Rome, and indicates a deal may be imminent. The talks come amid reports that Israel is planning a military strike on Iranian nuclear facilities if the U.S.-Iran talks fail to reach a deal.
But having to do with nuclear, we've had some very, very good talks with Iran, and I don't know if I'll be telling you anything good or bad over the next 2 days, but I have a feeling I might be telling you something good. We've had some real progress, serious progress.
You are happy with the talks with Iran. Will there be another round of talks soon?
Very soon. The Iran talks. I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. I can tell you the Iran talks have been going very well.
And you said you're unhappy.
And I'd love that to happen, because I'd love to see no bombs dropped and a lot of people dead. I really would like to see that happen.
And meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem concluded her 24-hour visit to Israel on Monday. She flew to Israel Sunday at the directive of U.S. President Donald Trump to show support and solidarity and to attend a memorial for the 2 Israeli embassy staffers who were murdered in a terror attack in Washington, D.C. The details in the following report. U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem on Monday paid her condolences at a memorial ceremony for the murdered Israeli embassy staffers, Yaron Lishinsky and Sarah Milgram, who were killed in a terror attack in Washington, D.C. earlier this week. The ceremony took place at the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs headquarters in Jerusalem and was hosted by Foreign Affairs Minister Gideon Saar and was also attended by U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee.
President Trump asked me to come here to Israel, to stand with all of you and to honor Sarah and Yaron. Today we stand together with profound grief, and our hearts are heavy with the loss of these 2 radiant souls that we will no longer have with us.
On Sunday, Noem met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in his office in Jerusalem, and as per a statement from the Prime Minister's office, expressed her unwavering support for Israel. She also expressed great appreciation for the Prime Minister's policy of building a fence along the Egyptian border and for his conduct of the war. While in Israel, Noem also visited the Western Wall along with Huckabee and his wife Janet and said a prayer at the Western Wall for a return of the hostages. And now, today, Israel marks Jerusalem Day, commemorating the day of the reunification of the city. Mayan Hoffman takes us inside the numbers and the meaning of the nation's eternal capital.
Jerusalem has been the heart of the Jewish nation for more than 3,000 years. It is a city that is ancient and modern, that is both political and spiritual, that is divided, yet deeply connected. On Jerusalem Day, we celebrate not only the reunification of our capital, but the soul of a nation. Today, Jerusalem is Israel's largest and most diverse city, home to over 1 million people. It's where Jews, Arabs, and foreigners live side by side, each adding their thread to the city's complex tapestry. About 57% of residents are Jews and others, nearly 40% are Arabs, and 5% are foreigners. Among the Jewish population, nearly half are ultra-Orthodox, making Jerusalem one of the youngest and most traditional cities in the country. In fact, Jerusalem has one of the highest fertility rates in the Western world. Women here have, on average, nearly 4 children each, and the average age of a first-time mother is just 24.6 years old. The city also has the largest household size in Israel, averaging nearly 4 people per family. Jerusalem grows mostly by natural increase, births, not moves. While many leave for cities like Beit Shemesh or Tel Aviv, thousands are born here every year. In 2024 alone, Jerusalem welcomed more than 25,000 babies, about 14% of all births in Israel. But numbers only tell part of the story. What makes Jerusalem so unique is not just who lives here, but what lives here. The Temple Mount, not the Western Wall, is the holiest place on earth for Jews. It's the site where Abraham was tested, where the first and second temple stood, and where the foundation stone, the cornerstone of creation according to Jewish tradition, rests beneath the Dome of the Rock.
כל בתי הכנסת בכל רחבי העולם מתפללים לכיוון הזה. כל התפילות שלנו עולות דרך המקום הזה לבורא עולם, שמכאן עיר השלום יהיה מסר ואור לגויים, לשלום בעולם, לשלום כאן במזרח התיכון, לשלום כאן בארץ ישראל.
For thousands of years, Jews faced this site in prayer, even when they were exiled, even when they were banned from entering. They never forgot it. Jerusalem is not just a capital, it's a promise.
And from Jerusalem to Canada, where it's no longer safe for Jews and Israelis. At least that's the message from Israel's National Security Council, which raised the travel advisory to the country to a level 2 and urged Jews and Israelis in the country to take precautionary measures. The details in the following report. Tens of thousands of pro-Israel supporters gathered in Toronto, Canada on Sunday for the annual Walk with Israel parade, a peaceful march to show Canadian solidarity with Israel. The parade was held just as Israel's National Security Council raised the travel advisory for Canada from a level 1 to a level 2, indicating a potential threat to Israelis and Jews living in or traveling to the country. The Security Council stated that there was an increased threat by terrorists against Israelis and Jews in Canada, and cited as examples numerous attacks against Jewish institutions and individuals over the past 18 months, including shooting incidents, Molotov cocktail attacks, and violent threats against Canadian Jews. As such, the Council recommended that all Israelis traveling to Canada and all those currently in Canada exercise precautionary measures and avoid displaying Jewish and Israeli symbols in public. The Canadian coalition, today led by Prime Minister Mark Carney, has come under harsh criticism for its ineffective handling of anti-Semitism in the country since October 7th.
We're gonna kill you by one.
And just this past week, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu slammed Carney for supporting Hamas terrorists over its democratic ally Israel. And now, do you want to transform your love for Israel into meaningful action? ILTV is proud to partner with Blessed by Israel, a company that brings you extraordinary products handcrafted by the brave pioneers of Judea and Samaria. Every purchase supports their mission and strengthens Israel's heartland. Let's take a closer look at Blessed by Israel and how you can make a difference today.
As the world moves to boycott Israel, the people working to restore life to the biblical heartland face daily challenges. Blessed by Israel offers a simple way to support these efforts by bringing unique and beautiful products from Judea and Samaria directly to you. From the hilltops of God's land to your home, you can find exceptional items crafted by families and small businesses in the heart of Israel. With U.S.-based warehouses, Blessed by Israel ensures affordable prices and fast delivery. Choose from a range of products, including skincare, artisan flowers and foods, olive oil, tahini, honey, and much more. There are many great options for giving wonderful gifts to your loved ones. Visit blessedbyisrael.com to explore these products and discover the inspiring stories behind them. Scan the QR code on your screen to take part in fulfilling God's prophecies.
And in other news, the recent Houthi and ongoing missile attacks are continuing to take a heavy toll on foreign airlines canceling flights to Israel. British Airways has now extended flight suspensions until July 31st. Air France is due to make a decision on the resumption of flights halted since the Houthi missile landed at Ben Gurion Airport at the beginning of the month. Various airline routes remain paused for several more days or weeks, and they have pushed off if and when they will return. On the positive side, this week Delta flights resumed, and so did the Hungarian low-cost Wizz and Aegean. Many Israelis have had to change their travel plans for this weekend's Shavuot holiday, with much uncertainty for holidays during the summer months. And today, Israelis celebrate Jerusalem Day with parades and prayers as they revel in the progress and growth of Israel's eternal capital. Yet, we don't forget that despite how far Israel has come, there are still more than 60,000 people in need of the very basics, like food. Let's take a look at Yad Ezra v'Shulamit and how they plan to step in.
Jerusalem Day commemorates the miracles and feats of the Six-Day War in 1967, a day that holds incredible significance.
So Jerusalem Day is such a special day connected to our holy capital city and the power of prayer. We pray for our dear hostages. We are praying for the success of our soldiers. And the very hard thing to understand and digest is that there are those in Israel who are praying for their next meal. There are so many new widows and orphans and new poor as a result of this current war. And as we think about the costs of putting together a dinner on the table on a regular basis, celebrating Shabbat, and then the upcoming holidays like Shavuot, I can't imagine that there are those new widows right now who are telling their orphan children they don't know where their next meal will come from, and they don't know how they will put food on the table for this holiday.
Jamie told ILTV how we can help and make a valuable difference today.
So we are asking you, this is a very special request to the ILTV viewers. We have come together as a community, unlike any other place, to support the hungry of Israel. And so this holiday for Shavuot, we are trying to donate 17,000 food baskets, which will feed 60,000 people in Israel. We've done it together with the ILTV community support before. You can just scan the QR code, and that will help us give food baskets filled with essential food for the holidays, as well as treats, food vouchers. And as we said, we're trying to raise money for 17,000 food baskets. We've done it before. Please just scan that QR code and you will change the lives of these widows and the orphans and the poor and the hungry in Israel for this holiday season.
Jamie explained that nothing brightens her day like the smiles of the children from the Yad Ezra v'Shulamit Children's Center, who once a year visit the Western Wall and use the power of prayer to pray for the continued blessings of Yad Ezra v'Shulamit donors.
I have gone with the children from the Yad Ezra v'Shulamit Children's Center to the Western Wall. In the past, we go a few times a year to pray for all of our amazing donors. It is a sight to be seen, to see these young girls and young children pouring their hearts out, praying at the Western Wall for the success and continued blessings to those that are supporting them and helping to ensure that food goes on the table. So when you scan the QR code, there's a place to put in your name. We'll be printing out the names. The children will be going to the Western Wall, to the Kotel, and we'll be praying for your continued success so that you always continue to be on the giving end and are always there to help support those in need, never have to be on the receiving end, and always there to bring joy to those that need it most exactly when they need it. So it's a very, very special opportunity. We only go a few times a year. As I said, I've been there with the children before, and it is heartwarming and emotional and meaningful. So when you scan the QR code, please just put your name in and we'll put you on a list, and the children will go and pray for you at the Western Wall.
Yad Ezra v'Shulamit is taking care of the poor in Israel and wants you, ILTV viewers, to have this message before Shavuot.
Thank you so much for all your loving care and support always. If everybody does what they can, everyone in Israel will have enough food to eat and no one will go hungry. In the merit of this tremendous mitzvah, may God always bless you to always be on the giving end.
And you can scan the QR code on your screen to help.
Israel evaded 2 ballistic missiles this morning from the Houthi terror proxy after the IDF says the launches from Yemen were successfully intercepted. Sirens sounded in Judea and Samaria and Palestinian villages during one of the attacks at 5 in the morning. Meanwhile, Israeli activists and reservists from the groups Generation of Victory and Sfa Teisha held a protest at the Ashdod port today and say they blocked the humanitarian and aid trucks that were headed for Gaza. The group say as soldiers are dying in combat in Gaza, quote, the state of Israel is sending aid to Hamas on a silver platter, calling it a national suicide. The group said on X they will be protesting every week going forward. And as aid flows into the Gaza Strip, the coordination of government activities in the territory says on Monday 170 trucks carrying humanitarian aid entered through the Kerem Shalom crossing and are making every effort to ensure it doesn't end up in the hands of Hamas. And as we near 600 days since October 7th, IDF Operation Gideon Sword continues to press forward in Gaza. At the same time, Israel is overseeing the massive new Gaza humanitarian aid operation. More from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
It's day 599 of the war in Gaza. The army said the IDF's 36th Division is maneuvering in Khan Yunis after completing its operation in Rafah. The division has established a presence in the Morag corridor, splitting the two cities in recent weeks. During the maneuvers, the soldiers killed dozens of gunmen and hundreds of Hamas assets were hit, including observation posts and tunnels. In northern Gaza, the IDF eliminated a cell of terror operatives who launched several mortars at troops. No injuries were caused. The troops identified the cell and called in an airstrike to eliminate them and the building they were operating from. Meanwhile, the IDF-backed mechanism to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza is now fully operational. The Prime Minister's office confirmed that the distribution by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation system is underway, and Israel will prevent aid from being diverted to Hamas and its war effort. Officials say that if all goes according to plan, by the end of the week, about 1 million Palestinians, or about half of the population of the enclave, will be receiving aid from the GHF. International aid groups and the UN are refusing to cooperate with the initiative. They say it will cause more displacement of the Palestinian population, and that it also violates the prohibition that a warring party is in control of humanitarian assistance.
The idea came from Israel. It has been taken over by the United States. It appears that it will be run by the private sector, including private military contractors. It's not yet clear who will fund it. It's been widely criticized by professional humanitarians because of its limited reach, because of the limited nature of the supplies that it is going to provide. And it is certainly better than nothing.
Kogat announced that some 170 trucks carrying humanitarian aid have entered Gaza over the past 24 hours. And since the lifting of the blockade this week, 665 trucks have entered Gaza with food, medicine, and medical equipment.
Thanks for that report, Steve. And U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff says Israel is ready to approve a temporary ceasefire offer and is urging Hamas to agree to it. The news about a possible ceasefire and hostage deal has caused some frustration from the families of hostages. Here's what you need to know.
שחרור חטופינו בראש מעיינינו. אני מקווה מאוד שנוכל לבשר משהו בעניין הזה, ואם לא נוכל היום, נבשר מחר, לא מוותרים.
A message from Prime Minister Netanyahu that came as a surprise has thrusted the families of hostages into frustration since Monday night. The news of a possible announcement to get the remaining 58 hostages out of Gaza has left families in limbo, with the brother of Nimrod Cohen accusing the Prime Minister of, quote, psychological terror by appearing to hint at a deal, worrying the government might eventually backpedal. News of movement also on Monday, as U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East Steve Witkoff said Israel is prepared to approve a temporary ceasefire deal and is urging Hamas to accept it. He denied claims Hamas accepted his hostage proposal and told Axios, quote, from what I have seen from Hamas is disappointing and completely unacceptable. Witkoff says that the deal Israel will agree to would see half of the living and deceased hostages returned back home, which would then lead to a substantive negotiations to find a path to a permanent ceasefire. He said, quote, the deal is on the table, Hamas should take it. Meanwhile, on Jerusalem Day, Monday night, Netanyahu said in his speech he vows to bring back all of the hostages, but will defeat Hamas so it no longer poses a threat to Israel.
ויש קשיים. החמאס עיקש, הוא סרבן, כך אמר גם הנציג האמריקני הערב, וויטקוף, זה נכון. אנחנו לא מרפים מהמשימה. אנחנו החזרנו עד היום 148 חטופים חיים. ויש עוד 20 בוודאות שהם חיים, ויש גם אחרים שאינם בחיים. ואנחנו מתכוונים להחזיר את כולם, החיים והחללים כאחד.
Now, could Israel be on the brink of a ceasefire and hostage deal, or will the Gaza ground offensive continue to expand? Joining us now to discuss is Brigadier General Amir Avivi, founder and CEO of the Israel Defense and Security Forum. Thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Tell me, what are your thoughts on this video Netanyahu published on Monday? He said there could be news even today about the hostages still in Gaza. Meanwhile, the families of some hostages say they're frustrated. It could be another dead end. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that the challenge is to bring Hamas to the point where they're desperate, really, really desperate for a ceasefire, that they are desperate for humanitarian aid, that desperate for the stopping of the continuous attacks of the IDF on their leadership and the fact that the IDF is conquering the area. So it's really about enhancing three main efforts that currently the IDF and the Shin Bet are doing. One is systematically conquering the area, taking over the area and destroying systematically all the terror infrastructure and the terrorists, also clearing these areas and moving the Gazan people to the south. The second thing is the toppling of the leadership of Hamas, which is done continuously. They are left with very few people that have experience, and this is ongoing. And last but not least is detaching Hamas from its own society by moving them to the designated humanitarian zones controlled by the IDF. And as we are moving forward with these three efforts, the pressure on Hamas will enhance, and I believe that at a certain point they will be desperate enough to be willing to have a ceasefire that is not an end to the war, that is confined in time, and be willing to release hostages to get this ceasefire, because they will need it desperately, just as they needed it at the beginning of the war when we maneuvered very strongly in Gaza, and even for 2 weeks of ceasefire, they were willing to release many hostages.
Right. So if a temporary ceasefire and a hostage deal is actually made, what will happen to this ground offensive? Officials said this week they're hoping within the next 2 months to capture 75% of Gaza. And right now, there are thousands of troops already deployed inside of the Gaza Strip. How do you suddenly halt an operation this large and big?
So why is it 75% and not 100%? Not because technically, operationally, the IDF cannot do it. They can do 100%. We're talking about the 75% where we estimate there are no hostages. So basically, the idea is to break this operation into 2 stages. The first one is conquering systematically all the 75%, completely destroying the terror infrastructure, leveling it down, controlling 100%, the whole 75%, and then really closing on the areas where there will be remaining hostages. And this will put huge pressure on Hamas. They will be in a state where they lost basically almost everything. The whole area will be controlled. And also at that time, in the 75%, we'll have also hopefully 100% of the Gazans that are not Hamas in these areas, in the humanitarian zones. And this creates a completely different reality, might, by the way, even bring a collapse to Hamas even before. So I think that the plans are the right plans. They are balancing between the need to reach the goal of eradicating Hamas as a governmental and military entity, the goal of bringing back all the hostages, and the goal of creating a reality that never again there will be a terror army in the Gaza Strip. And we need to be able to reach all goals. They are challenging. We might prefer a certain goal at a certain point and another one at another point, but we have to push all the time constantly to reach all goals before.
Right, so you talk about this pressure that the IDF is trying to put on Hamas to squeeze them to cut a deal. Now, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation said they began operations inside of Gaza today and already delivered truckloads of food to distribution sites. Meanwhile, the foundation says Hamas has threatened aid groups already in the Gaza Strip that are helping them with these deliveries. Do you think this new mechanism will prevent Hamas from getting the aid? You talked about squeezing Hamas into a deal. But could this potentially do the opposite?
So I think that already Hamas is under a lot of pressure when they see heads of clans going into Israeli-controlled areas and getting the food from Israel, not from Hamas. This is a huge change. The fact that these trucks don't go straight into Hamas, but to areas controlled by the IDF, this prevents also smuggling of money, weapons inside these trucks. So it really disrupts Hamas' really attempt to rebuild itself. At this stage, we're sending heads of families to pick up the food. I think that will Hamas try and steal the food from their hands? We'll see. Mm-hmm. But the second stage is about really moving all the society into these areas controlled by the IDF, and then Hamas won't have the leverage. They will not be able to threaten them. They won't be there. They will be in areas controlled by the IDF, and this is really a big change. It's the next step. It hasn't happened yet. Now we're in the first step. But eventually Hamas will completely lose control of its own society, and they will be in areas controlled by the IDF.
Now, a new Israeli media report says a senior IDF official said in a briefing on Monday that Gaza is not even close to a famine. What have you gathered as this new aid comes into the enclave?
So I think he's right. And if you really look into what Gazans publish in different social media platforms, there is food in Gaza. There's not a shortage. But once we really will move all the food and fuel, everything to areas controlled by the IDF, we'll see a moment where Hamas will suffer from lack of aid and a lack of other capabilities. And then we'll see how it will impact what they do.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today and just offering your perspective as all of this continues to change day by day.
Thank you very much.
Israel Bonds, the heartbeat of solidarity, the powerhouse of support. When the Israeli-Hamas war hit, Israel Bonds stood tall, proving we're more than just an investment, we're a lifeline. Israel Bonds pledges to ensure Israel thrives and flourishes. Investing in Israel Bonds isn't just a financial move, it's a declaration for resilience, strength, and a better future for Israel. Join us and let solidarity echo through generations.
The diplomatic dispute between Israel and three key allies over recognizing Palestinian statehood is heating up. Israeli government ministers reportedly told counterparts in the UK, France, and Canada that any unilateral action they take on recognizing a Palestinian state will be met with Israeli measures as well. Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer reportedly told the French Foreign Minister and British Foreign Secretary that Israel could respond by annexing part of Judea and Samaria. The ministers even raised a plan to annex Area C in the territories where more than 1 million Israeli settlers live in Jewish communities. Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar reportedly conveyed a similar message to the three allies and other nations planning to recognize Palestinian statehood, and French President Macron is expected to promote the coordinated recognition of a Palestinian state in a New York summit next month. The U.S. says it will not participate. Germany, Hungary, and the Czech Republic have announced opposition to the unilateral move. And sharp differences are being reported between U.S. President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu over the issue of the Iranian nuclear program. Trump is indicating that a major announcement on the issue could be coming soon. More from ILTV's Devo Klein.
After U.S. President Trump hinted that an agreement on the U.S.-Iranian nuclear deal could be imminent, Iranian officials insist that there is no deal at this time. The Iranian Foreign Ministry said it rejects the U.S. demand for a temporary freeze of enrichment and that it's not worried about sanctions. The statement said an interim deal is not on the table and that Iran will survive even if talks fall apart. Officials say no date has yet been set for a sixth round of talks between Tehran and Washington. Asked about reports that Iran would agree to a 3-year freeze in enrichment, an Iranian official said Iran will never accept that. The U.S. and Iran are reportedly considering an interim agreement as a temporary step toward a final deal. The talks aim to resolve a decades-long dispute over Iran's nuclear weapons ambitions, with the focus on the issue of uranium enrichment. According to Channel 12 Israel TV, President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu engaged in a heated phone call last week over how to confront Iran. Trump reportedly told Netanyahu that he wants a diplomatic solution with the Iranians and that he has the ability to make a good deal. He also reportedly said that the agreement would serve the interests of both sides. The tone of the conversation was reportedly marked by sharp disagreement with Netanyahu, arguing for a military strike to destroy Iranian nuclear capabilities. U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem met Netanyahu in Jerusalem yesterday and said that Trump sent her to explain to Netanyahu how negotiations were going and how important it is that we stay united and let the negotiating process play out.
Thanks, Devo, for that report. And now to Jerusalem, where what began as a day of celebration quickly turned tense. More on Jerusalem Day from ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
This year's Jerusalem Day began with celebration, but quickly turned chaotic. What was meant to be a show of unity sparked division once again in the heart of the capital. Thousands of Israelis flooded Jerusalem's Old City on Monday for the annual Flag March, marking Israel's 1967 capture of East Jerusalem and the reunification of the city. But the event, known for national pride, spiraled when marchers began shouting slogans, waving flags, and confronting anyone they saw as opponents, including Palestinians, left-wing Israelis, and even journalists. Witnesses told Israeli and foreign media that tensions flared in the narrow alleys of the Old City. Some young marchers reportedly harassed Palestinian shopkeepers who had not closed their stores. Others clashed with Israeli activists and media crews, chanting "Death to Arabs." No arrests were reported, but videos circulating online showed pushing, threats, and attempts to block journalists from filming. This year's march took place only hours after far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir ascended the Temple Mount, a place where Israeli-Palestinian tensions often erupt, and against the backdrop of war in Gaza, now in its 20th month, a war that has left the Israeli public deeply divided. Ben-Gvir also joined the flag march. Earlier in the day, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed a special cabinet meeting in honor of Jerusalem Day. He emphasized Israel's unwavering stance on the city's future.
אנחנו נשמור על ירושלים מאוחדת, שלמה, בריבונות ישראל. אם חלילה נוותר על ירושלים, נקבל טבח גדול פי כמה. בעצם נקבל את חיסול האומה. ולא ניתן לזה לקרות.
Similarly, U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee, an outspoken supporter of Israel, praised the day as a celebration.
After 2,000 years of exile, yearning and praying toward Jerusalem, God fulfilled the prayer next year in Jerusalem by restoring the eternal capital of the Jewish people under Israeli sovereignty. I want the people of Israel to know that America stands with you.
Thank you, Mayan, for that report from Jerusalem. And World Jewish Congress delegates representing more than 70 countries came together in Jerusalem for the 17th Plenary Assembly. Delegates got to hear from Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar, families of hostages taken on October 7th, and a collection of other speakers in an inspiring event of connection and meaning. Let's see more.
The annual World Jewish Congress Plenary Assembly kicked off in Jerusalem for its 17th year.
The delegates are coming from 6 continents, approximately 70 countries, and it's an honor to be the host. I am the president of World Jewish Congress Israel chapter, and it is my pleasure to be their host this evening and to greet the delegates and to all of the friends of the World Jewish Congress.
The event was attended by delegates from more than 70 countries, as well as key Israeli figures like Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar, who shared an in-depth overview of the state of Israel's relationship with Jewish communities around the world and reaffirmed the enduring bonds between Israel and the diaspora. Sa'ar emphasized the, quote, shared destiny and mutual responsibility that unite the Jewish people globally. After hearing from Sa'ar, the delegates transferred to the plenary hall, where they welcomed the families of 4 Israeli hostages who were taken on October 7th. Each family member shared stories of their loved ones while urging the assembly leaders to remain fighting for the return of all hostages.
Today we are in the aftermath of October the 7th, and it adds increased significance to the importance of this meeting. The World Jewish Congress is the diplomatic body that represents the interest of Am Yisrael, of the Jewish people.
The World Jewish Congress is playing a crucial role in the protection of Jewish communities in the diaspora, coming together in the heart of Israel. The holy city of Jerusalem strengthens not only the ties between Israel and the diaspora, but the ties between diaspora communities. As Minister Saar reiterated, the shared destiny and mutual responsibility that unite the Jewish people globally.
A stunning 1,600-year-old mosaic has just been unveiled in Israel South, offering a rare glimpse into Byzantine life in the Negev. More on this from ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
A remarkable piece of history has just been revealed to the public in Israel's southern region. For the first time, a 1,600-year-old Byzantine-era mosaic is on display at the Merchavim Regional Council in the western Negev. The mosaic was uncovered more than 3 decades ago near Kibbutz Urim, on the edge of the ancient site called Kirbat Be'er Shema. Until now, it has been kept hidden and protected underground. Earlier this week, the Israel Antiquities Authority and the Israeli Ministry of Heritage officially unveiled the restored mosaic, following months of careful conservation work. Now installed in the council's headquarters, the colorful artwork gives a vivid glimpse into the life during the Byzantine period. The mosaic features 55 circular medallions filled with intricate scenes, everything from hunting and farming to mythological figures, exotic animals, and baskets of fruit. Experts describe it as a masterwork created by a highly skilled artist, using tiny stones in many colors, along with bits of glass and pottery for added richness. Archaeologists say the mosaic was originally part of a large monastery that operated a wine production center. Excavations revealed a wine press and warehouses filled with clay storage jars made on the site. The settlement itself lay along a major ancient trade route, once used by merchants moving spices and goods between Halutza and the port city of Gaza. The roads likely marked the transition from desert to more populated regions and served as a safe haven for travelers seeking protection from raids. Officials hope the newly unveiled mosaic will become a cultural and tourism highlight, especially for the Gaza envelope region, which of course has seen its share of challenges. They say showcasing historical treasures like this one can help breathe new life into the area.
Wow, what an incredible story.
Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Madar Gravelazi, and coming up in today's newscast. As Israel expands its operation